Oh my god. How's it going, guys? It is a very, very, very warm day today, but it's also an exciting one because we are picking up Final Fantasy 16. I am really, really looking forward to this. This actually might just be my most anticipated game this year, honestly, if you could believe it. Kind of came out of nowhere for me because, you know, I was always going to play the game. I was always kind of, you know, I guess looking forward to it. You know, with Final Fantasy, I have always kind of expressed that for me, the fantasy genre isn't really a direct interest for me. I like science fiction. I don't really care much for, you know, fantasy-oriented, you know, art direction and environments and stuff like that. But, you know, me being sort of new to the Final Fantasy games, I guess, in that sort of world and spectacle, I mean, I guess the first official title that I played was Final Fantasy 13 back on the PS3, and then Final Fantasy 15 on the PlayStation 4. And here we are with 16 here, getting it on the PS5. So this is a pretty exciting moment. But it was that what state of play, whatever convention or you know, presentation that they had a couple months ago for the game that just kind of sold me on it immediately. It just looks like massively epic in terms of the scope of the game, what they're doing with the cinematics and whatnot. It just really kind of blew me away, everything that they were doing from an art direction standpoint. So I'm really looking forward to actually picking up the game myself. I did play the demo on PS5 and walked away very, very impressed. Highly cinematic, which I absolutely love, especially the directing and the cinematography of the cutscenes and everything. It's like you're literally playing an interactive movie at times. It's just very, very cinematic, and I'm very impressed by just all the work that's gone in there. The graphics, I felt, you know, most of the game is basically running in real time, including all those cinematics, which is even more impressive. And I also like that it's not directly an open world game. You know, Final Fantasy 15, for all of its faults, it was a rather incomplete game. At least that's kind of how it felt to me, right? I played it, it was like a year or so after launch, so a little bit later, because I was waiting for the performance issues to get patched out. And I ended up playing it, and I walked away feeling that it was a good game that felt at times like it was just, like, you know, it went through a lot of creative changes, and you definitely felt that when you were playing the full, complete game. So, while I feel like Final Fantasy 15 was probably overall a good game, it definitely wasn't reaching the, you know, I think the anticipation and all the just excitement that people had for it. It just felt like a game that really went through a lot of changes. And what's interesting to me about Final Fantasy 16 is that for many people, it's almost a return to form when it comes to the type of world direction and an art style and whatnot. You know, it's more, definitely more of the fantasy kind of medieval type of, you know, structure. You know, nothing like weapons or robotics or any of sort of the science fiction stuff that we saw with Final Fantasy 13 and 15. That stuff is kind of gone, and what they've done is a more traditional type of, well, classical style of that world. So, but the demo itself really kind of blew me away, and I highly, highly recommend for any of you guys who might be on the fence. That demo is like the first 2 to 3 hours of the actual game, and your progress carries over into the final game as well. So even if you know, if you want to play the game or get the game and you play the demo, you can just pick up exactly where the demo left off, which is pretty cool. So anyway, again, I'm really looking forward to it, really seeing how it's going to go. Now, in terms of me actually starting the game, I'm basically going to wait. I'm going to wait like a couple of weeks, and the reason is because I also purchased Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and I have that coming in the mail tomorrow. Here's the thing for me. I want to make sure that Jedi Survivor is fixed before I actually play it. And same thing, by the way, with Redfall. I also purchased that. I got it for like 20 bucks, like some ridiculous, like, you know, deal. So I decided to pick up Redfall, but that's also a game I'm going to just wait on until it gets patched out severely. All these games are just releasing unfinished, and you know, Final Fantasy 16, hey, for what it's worth, they have one day one patch, which is like 200 megabytes in size. It barely does anything, but basically the bulk of the game is complete. It's performance, it's polished. I mean, just that on its own, especially these days where the vast majority of games are now coming out unfinished and in really, really, really buggy states, at least we have a game here that actually has quality to it. And I think that in of itself is worth you know, supporting on its own. So if Jedi Survivor doesn't get patched out in the next week or two, I know they just released, I think, patch 6. I'm gonna wait to see what the feedback is on that, but basically if I can't play that game at a solid frame rate, or if the bugs are still present, yeah, I'm gonna start Final Fantasy 16 and just give that game some more time. That's another one that I'm really looking forward to playing, is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. In any case, I'm gonna go pick up the game right now, Final Fantasy 16. I'll meet you guys back here, and then we'll head to the house where we can unbox it and see what's inside. All right? Alrighty, guys. Here it is, Final Fantasy 16 standard version here. The back, it says 100 gigabytes of space, which is absolutely nuts. So we have to see what's inside this case here, if there's a disc or maybe perhaps a little bit more. It has a little bit of weight to it, so hopefully there's something else in here besides just a disc. All right, see you guys back at the house. All right, everyone. Final Fantasy 16, here it is, finally in our hands. A perfect game just to have for the summer, you know, something that's very story-driven and I expect is going to be long as well. So let's open this up, let's see exactly what's inside the case, and if there's anything else in here besides a disc. Alright everyone, here we are, Final Fantasy 16 on the PS5 here. Now, interesting to note, on the actual console bundle with this game that comes with the PS5, it says console launch exclusive until the end of December of this year. So for anyone else who's kind of holding out, I know that there's a lot of people who want to play this on PC, and of course the Xbox crowd is missing out. Probably sometime next year. However, basically the same thing was done with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that came to PC, but there still is no Xbox version. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But let's take a look at this. I like the cover, first off. It's pretty cool here, the character, and then in the shadow you have, of course, his younger brother here, and then you have the icon Ifrit kind of blasting his way out. So it's a pretty cool cover, I would say. Let's take the actual cellophane off. Take a look at this without the actual shine of the plastic. Okay. Yeah, so it's a pretty cool cover, I would say. I like that. Here's a look at the spine. Pretty simple, Final Fantasy 16. And then on the back, fate is written in fire. And then it has some screenshots here. Dynamic action RPG, immense icon battles, and a dark fantasy world. We have one player, 100 gigabytes of minimum space, and of course it uses the DualSense vibration function and trigger effects. So I pretty much like the way that this game handled in the demo. I thought it was a very well-playing game. The upgrades and just the character building didn't seem as super complex as I was expecting, which in my mind is a good thing. I'd like games to be, you know, deep, but not so, you know, immense to the point where you just get kind of overwhelmed by what you're seeing. So I like that this is not even an open world game. It's more of a hub space, and there is some exploration elements, but you're not going to be getting lost in it and spending hours like in, you know, Final Fantasy 15. Alright, taking a look inside. Oh look, we actually do have some inserts here, not just the game disc itself, which is pretty cool. Let's take a look at the disc actually. We actually have a reversible cover, it looks like, yeah. Take a look at that. We'll see that after we inspect all this other stuff. But here's the game disc. I like that. You know, it's the same classic kind of Final Fantasy art here. You got the Phoenix, and then it looks like Ifrit on the bottom. And then you have an ad here for Final Fantasy 14 Online. which I haven't played and really have no interest in. On the back, Heaven's Ward, pretty cool. And then we have a little, I mean, it's kind of funny because, you know, this isn't really an instructions booklet, but it's more than what most publishers put in their game discs these days. It's basically just warnings, labels, you know, language options, support information, stuff like that. So yeah, let's take a look actually at the back cover here, the reversible cover, because this is pretty cool. Yeah, you have the same banner here, which I really like. You know, no rating information there on the bottom, but then you have this art style, which is pretty nice. That's more evident, I guess, of the PlayStation 5. You know, when you select a game, the background art, that's kind of what this is. But pretty nice that you can actually reverse the cover, and you know, it looks almost official. Besides the rating information down there, and you know, the warranty stuff and all that information. You know, it's a pretty comparable cover. So what I actually want to do here, which I think will be quite interesting, is let's take a look and compare the covers of this game with some of the older Final Fantasies that I also have in my collection. So I like the cover of Final Fantasy 16, but let's take a look at some other games, most notably Final Fantasy 15, which launched for the PlayStation 4 here. This is your standard edition of the game. You know, they used a different kind of film on the Final Fantasy 15 cover where it kind of refracts light, which some people, you know, might like. I myself always like those tiny little details. This is the Day 1 edition on PS4. The spine is basically kept very similar. Besides the actual font itself, it's still that kind of classic white. Interesting with the white banner of the PS5 as well, in contrast to the blue on PS4. You know, and in the back here is, you know, different game information, obviously different era and whatnot, but pretty cool to compare the covers there. But if we take a look at the Final Fantasy VII remake as well, take a look at this. It's even more kind of classically done. So you have 3 basic Final Fantasy titles here, at least the 3 last ones that were released from what I understand. Final Fantasy 16, the 7 remake before that, and then of course 15 in, was it 2016 when that first launched, all those years ago. And then if we go back even further, here's Final Fantasy 13 on the PlayStation 3, which they still kind of did that kind of, you know, color refractment film. You can kind of see in Lightning's hair, you know, it kind of refracts light, as well as her sword here on the bottom. So depending on, you know, the way you're looking at it, you get a little bit of a pearlescent kind of style to it. So the later titles, you know, later releases, they kind of went away with that, and it's just kind of your basic film versus the more, you know, reflective versions of these older games. But still pretty cool. I do like the cover of this game. I do think it fits, and it's nice that you also have that reversible cover as well. So pretty cool. Alright everyone, super appreciate you being here. Thank you all so much for watching the unboxing of Final Fantasy 16. Now, as I mentioned earlier in this video, depending on if Star Wars Jedi Survivor gets patched and fixed in the next couple of weeks, at least more polished up from its performance state and a lot of the other kind of bugs going around with that game, I'm going to start that first. If it doesn't get patched, I'm immediately jumping into Final Fantasy 16. This game's already pretty polished, so I feel very confident, and I'm also very happy that the developers, you know, released the game that they wanted to release, and it wasn't just pushed out the door. So follow me on Twitter for some immediate updates. I'll probably have a review of this out sometime next month, to be completely honest. I don't know how long the game is, and depending on how long it is, it may take me a little bit longer to get through it. But I'll try to get out a review when possible, and I guess we'll go on from there. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I will talk with you all later. Have a good one.